Macro-sociologists deal with these broad trends. You know, what's the nature of juvenile delinquency, for example? That's a societal-wide thing, or poverty, whatever. Micro-sociologists, people who look at interaction within groups, for example, usually no larger than small groups, or face-to-face interaction. Macro-sociologists argue that these broad social characteristics determine individual behavior. Micro-sociologists reverse the whole thing and say you wouldn't have a large society unless you had interaction. Okay.
But we don't have any other examples of disciplines where we can see a nice example of microsocial.
I mean, com's really the only other one.
History, maybe a little bit?
I don't know where history.
Just thinking about some of the oral history work, for example.
Well, yeah, oral history, but the goal there is usually the history, not the interaction. Okay.
True enough.
Personal narrative, yes. But I mean, com is the place where it should be.
True.
Except,
True.
as Griffin indicates to you, the bulk of the work in communication at this point is in the social psychological tradition. So the explanations are fundamentally psychological. They take social context into account, but that's different because the explanation is in terms of the individual. And these are pretty fine distinctions. Quite willing to spend some more time on. But okay, so face constituting theory is not person-centered explanation, and it's not a macrosocial. It is a microsocial explanation. So we're looking at phenomena of face, relationships, and whatnot growing out of the interaction we have with one another over time, over space, in big networks. And that's where you get larger social phenomena emerging now. Okay. I would argue, and I do argue in this paper that you weren't able to read, that if you start from the point of view of what I call a person-centered explanation, you're actually blocked. The metaphor you're using there for face, in this case, actually blocks you from seeing other possibilities. Any metaphor does that. Okay, but is that a question that was coming up?
Does person? So, I usually frame things in a view of audience. That it's audience focused. Is that different than person focused?
No.
Yeah, because it can be because I can substitute audience for citizens or something
Well,
else.
it may and may not be. It depends on whose theory you're using. There is a distinction that's been made in this work, in politeness theory, between speaker-centered and receiver-centered.